All right, are we live, ladies and gentlemen? All right, well, we're going to start this broadcast. Today is Tuesday, March 12th, 2024. And this is your host, Joe Imbriano, coming to you live from the streets of Orange County, California on this early evening, a very pleasant day in Southern California. About 70 degrees today, partly cloudy. Beautiful weather. Right now, the chemtrails are kind of rolling in just ahead of the marine layer, right? So I want to talk to you today about another set of topics. And as you could tell, I've been kind of laying low because, to be honest with you, there's a lot going on to confuse you right now. And by the way, that's intentional, okay? You know, I was having a discussion last night with my son, and he was very poignant when he was answering my questions. And one of the reasons why young people don't remember things is because they've been given too much information, and that's what the schools are designed to do. So I want to kind of dive into this. Oh boy. I got somebody with punched exhaust in front of me with no catalytic converters. I better turn on the recirculation in this 30-year-old jalopy. Anyway, have I mentioned that this is your host, Joe Imbriano, the Fullerton Informer? P.O. Box 4121, Fullerton, California, 92834. On the web at thefullertoninformer.com, 5gdangers.com, and WiFiDangers.com. CellTowerDangers.com, all kinds of dangers.coms, folks. So what I was talking about with my son last night involved a wide range of topics, and I was asking him about the younger people, and they don't remember things because they have been given too much information in the schools. And one of the things the schools are designed to do is turn you into somebody that has no critical thinking skills, okay? I'm going to let this road warrior get a little bit in front of me so I don't have to listen to it. One of the biggest problems with the United States is the education system, ladies and gentlemen, because by and large, what it does is it turns out people that are no longer individuals, that are simply just cogs in a wheel that can be weaponized and used against us. Now, you've got to be kidding me when you actually look at things at face value. I had an unfortunate opportunity over the past several days to be dealing with somebody who demanded to be taken to an emergency room, an elderly person in my family. And I might as well tell you that the experience at this ER was laughable at best, okay? And it's a local hospital here in Fullerton. I'm not going to mention the names of the attending physician or the facility. I think it goes without saying. There'll be further ado on this in the future. But these people that worked in this emergency room were not using critical thinking. They were following flowcharts, okay? Which is very dangerous because they were ignoring the facts that I was giving them, and they continued to attempt to do what they're instructed to do, no matter how counterintuitive or unnecessary or invasive or, quite frankly, expensive it was. They were determined to run according to their protocols, which had nothing to do with identifying the problem and the reason why I was there with this person, but rather it was for them to check off the boxes. And I was restrained to an extent by my wife, who did not want me to go too far with my questions. Obviously, she probably didn't want me getting arrested. And needless to say, we left the so-called emergency room and signed out the individual that was brought in on a yellow slip of paper that says we left against medical advice. And I'll tell you, folks, sometimes you have to do that when you realize you're dealing with people that are far more dangerous than when you're dealing with people that are far more dangerous than the ailment that you're seeking relief from. Okay? Now, you've got to be kidding me when you are a registered nurse or you're a medical doctor and you're an emergency room doctor, or you're an x-ray tech, and you tell me that you need to do a chest x-ray to test for an enlarged heart right after an EKG was run that shows no abnormalities, right? This is insane, right? Like, how do you go through medical school or nursing school or your trade school and not realize that there's no need for this? And by the way, they wanted to do a chest x-ray, but the doctor never once even listened to her lungs with a stethoscope. They just ordered an x-ray. She wasn't there for congestion. She wasn't there for a cough. And by the way, the doctor insisted on running all kinds of tests, including viral swabs, a COVID test, and other types of tests that we refused. And yet she had no fever. And yet the medical records indicated no temperature measurement of the patient. That's right. So let me get this straight. They wanted to do a COVID test for a so-called virus that is so contagious that you got to wear a mask to prevent you from breathing it out. Yet they got to go all the way up your sinuses into your brain cavity to find it with an 8-inch Q-tip, right? Now, the registered nurse that came in that wanted to do this COVID test was a nice guy. But how do you justify sticking an 8-inch Q-tip up somebody's nose to find the virus when it's supposedly so contagious that you got to cover your nose and your mouth? Why don't they just let you lick the Q-tip, right? Where's the common sense? Where's the critical thinking? Well, it went away in nursing school. It started disappearing in elementary school. It took a turn for the worst in junior high. It completely checked out during high school. And then it went on spring break in college. And then it was flushed down the toilet in nursing school. Because if you're stupid enough to believe that it is necessary to stick an 8-inch Q-tip up somebody's nose all the way practically into their brain cavity to find a virus that is so supposedly contagious that people gotta asphyxiate themselves with face coverings to protect others from catching it, there's a massive disconnect there. Okay? So I want to kind of go into, forget the insanity of that experience, but we might as well continue on this medical debauchery bandwagon that we're on right now. And by the way, I have my ski goggles on because all of the headlights on the cars are weaponized, including the headlights when I check my side mirror and my rear view mirror. Now, fortunately, this 30-year-old car has a 30-year-old plastic windshield in the convertible, and it blocks out a lot of the weaponized headlight illumination. So I've got to be concerned what's coming at me, because once the photoreceptors in your eyes are being destroyed by the creation of free radicals, by the introduction of this 5,000 degree Kelvin projector beam coming off of the car approaching you times 100 on the freeway and on the city streets, your eyes will become permanently damaged slowly over time. That's why everybody's got such bad vision. I want to talk to you about this medical debauchery, folks, because it's so insane on so many levels. And, I guess I might as well go back into this. The blood pressure was elevated on this individual substantially. The heart rate was elevated, and the person was feeling dizzy and a little cold and uncomfortable and scared. And yet the doctor started arguing with me, telling me I'm not a doctor, I don't know what I'm talking about, those aren't symptoms of elevated blood pressure. Those are not symptoms of blood pressure. He was trying to find a virus in this woman that didn't exist. He was in search of a problem that didn't exist so he could apply a solution that was not necessary. Until I said, honey, we're getting the hell out of here. And that's what we did. But I want to talk to you about what you're hearing about all the time on the news now is this microplastics scare. I want to keep harping on this because this is a big deal. There are a lot of distractions right now, like the fake elections, all this fake political crap, and all these fake circuses with Trump and Biden. You know, you got the red-headed wax dummy and the white-haired wax dummy. I don't care what you say. You know, Donald Trump is probably the only person I know that could get on television and make you laugh as he takes your guns away and forces you to get a vaccine. People will still love him even if he does that. It's unbelievable. That's why he's so dangerous. But this medical debauchery and this scientific fraud that's being commingled with the media and force-fed to all the knuckleheads out there that watch it are starting to get afraid of the plastics. And for those of you who think, oh, it's not a big deal, it doesn't affect me, I'm going to talk to you about what impact banning plastics is going to have on the medical system. Because just about everything in the hospital, just about everything in the doctor's office, just about everything in the pharmacy is contained in plastics, stored in plastics, transported in plastics, and even hung on the drip in the hospital in plastics, and delivered intravenously through plastic tubing. Now, what's going to happen when they start banning plastics, right? Well, they're starting to work on the bags and the straws, and now they're talking about quote-unquote single-use plastics like plastic cups. What's next? A plastic IV bag? What's next? The plastic wrap on the steak? Or the fruit that came in from South America? Or the insulin? Or the blood plasma? Or the blood transfusion? What's next? So they're going to ban everything? They're telling us that the plastics are getting into the placenta. They're crossing the placenta. They're finding microplastics in the water. They're finding microplastics here, there, and everywhere, all the way to Tiffany Square, right? They're setting the stage for the evisceration of humanity's existence through a concerted effort to take us back to the Stone Age through a fake crisis. They're saying that microplastics are causing heart attacks. Never mind that stuff the doctors are giving people are causing heart attacks. They're saying that microplastics are causing all these health problems. Never mind that the Wi-Fi and the cell towers and the microwave levels are causing health problems. They're blaming everything on the microplastics, so all the other highly sophisticated integrated weaponry gets a pass. Do you understand me? If you don't like my tone and my pitch, then get lost and, go find some Disney cartoon and go microwave your Hot Pockets and, just sit there and you know what? If you don't like how I'm delivering this message and if you don't like my tone of voice, do me a favor, go make yourself a Diet Joke shaved ice, microwave a couple of hot dogs. That way you can get plenty of aspartame, plenty of sodium nitrite, plenty of sodium erythorbate, plenty of sodium benzoate and caramel coloring, and carbonic acid and all kinds of other putrid chemical concoctions that will make you comfortably numb so you can acquiesce to the lullaby that you're being sung by the people that want to put you in the ground. Now, for those of you who are okay with this message, carry on, as I will as well. You think these scientists give a crap about your health? Look at what they're promoting. Go to the grocery store. Look at the food pyramid. If you want to be healthy, turn that food pyramid upside down. You want to know why everybody's so messed up? Is because they do what the government tells them, because it's the doctor's orders, right? This is unbelievable. The schools have turned everyone, including the school district employees, into complicit, lackey, slave-minded sycophants that leave their conscience in the trash can after they go to the bathroom. How can you tell people all of these lies and make children recite them and write essays about them when everything is such a hypocritical joke now that it's out in the open? Why are we doing this to children? Well, it's because they don't want these children growing up to be adults that have a brain that works. They want slaves. They want the body parts. They want the luge energy, the hatred and the anger and the fear, right? They want their sex slaves. They want to be able to have their way with us. That's why you have companies like Disney courting these creepy vampire cartoons where, you got this vampire holding this little girl's hand, like walking with her like it's her friend. You think I'm crazy? These people are insane that run things, okay? There's all kinds of stuff coming out now about, every 20 years the Bohemian Grove thing takes off again, and people start realizing, hey, these guys, they're all up there, Democrat and Republican. The congressmen, the heads of these corporations, they all go up there. But oh no, it's all conspiracy theories, right? Everything's a conspiracy, right? You guys hear me okay? You see me okay? It's dark. Sun's going down. These headlights are brighter than the sun, folks. Let me take these off for a second. Hi there. All right. Sorry the phone's sideways. My holder broke, so I got to lay it on the dashboard right underneath my temperature gauge. But that's okay. This works. You guys can still hear me. The only thing that matters, you don't need to look at me. You just need to listen to me, okay? You don't need to question why I'm wearing these goggles, because you can see all the headlights reflecting in my eyes. Well, so let's get back into this plastics deal, all right? They don't want you having a portable water storage, a portable food storage, or sealable. They're even going after the glass now. They're saying the glass has got chemicals in it. They want you literally in the grocery line every day, and eventually in the bread line. That's where they want you. They don't want you being self-sufficient or self-reliant. They don't want you preserving things. They don't want you having access to fresh food. They want you to have everything, freeze-dried, reconstituted, made out of chemicals or plant-based. Look, they want you eating the lab-grown meat so they can feed you cancer and tell you it's Chilean sea bass, right? You don't think that the hot dogs are made out of prime rib, do you? You really think so? I had a guy that was a friend of mine many years ago. His name was Lou. He was a good friend of mine. Many years, we had a lot of discussions. And this guy's IQ probably was close to 180. Really intelligent man. And we used to talk about this kind of stuff, and he was telling me about his buddy that worked at the meatpacking plant in Vernon, California, where, the carcasses would come down and they'd cut the tumors out. And the ones that had the tumors went into this bin, and that was for sausages and hot dogs. You don't think they waste the tumors, do you? If they can, they can add some pink slime to that and put some flavorings in it, and they can get, a couple bucks for a pound of this stuff, they're going to do it, right? They don't waste anything. What I'm getting at, ladies and gentlemen, is they've got plans for you. They're not your friends. The scientific community is betraying us lock, stock, and barrel. It's a fraud. The scientific community is a total fraud, okay? And the educational system is what propagates this fraud and mandates the literal indoctrination and inculcation of the elements of this fraud into these young people's minds that they get so sick of being jammed full of information that the average student just gives up on thinking and just goes into a mode of self-gratification, and they turn out to just be a hedonistic consumer. Now, there are those who are really stupid and continue to accept the trauma-based mind control as they move up through this Masonic system of education. And by the way, they don't put a baseball cap on you when you graduate. They put a square on you. They cube you. It's a Masonic ritual, okay? So graduation to when you get a degree, it's technically an order of masonry at a very low level. But you're being cubed. Your brain's, it's symbolic of your brain being cubed, serving that God of this age and this earth, the light bearer, right? Lucifer, that's their God. And it's really sad because everything these children are being taught is not necessary. And it's actually very counterintuitive, very destructive, and very unhealthy for these children physically. Because, today in California, you have to get up an hour early because they just changed the clocks, right? So you got children being driven by their parents to school, and some of these children come from far away for this place down the street from my house where it's supposedly a magnet school where they're brainwashing all these brainwashable children. And what's happening is some of these children have to get up 3:30 in the morning to get here with traffic. And these children are being sleep deprived. They're being they're on Adderall. They're skipping meals. Their glasses are practically thick enough to be bulletproof. Their eyes are so bad. They've got so much Wi-Fi exposure. They're up all night, blue light, iPad, computer screen, staring at this, learning all this stuff they'll never use, just so they can find their seat in a lecture hall in hopes of being one of these guys that wears a butcher's coat in an emergency room that tells somebody that doesn't have a fever that they have an asymptomatic UTI and need antibiotics. That's right. This doctor in the emergency room proceeded to tell me that this patient potentially has an asymptomatic uterine tract infection, right? So now I go in there and I'm telling the guy that, we got elevated blood pressure, elevated heart rate, and arrhythmia, and symptoms of hypertension. And the reason I went there is not because I wanted to, but because I was forced to. And yet the guy ignores all that, and he's looking for a virus in this poor woman when she doesn't even have a fever or any symptoms of an infection. See, now that's how completely insane the system is. I mean, if this was a couple of years ago, they probably would have put her on a ventilator in the lobby, okay? Because that's the kind of stuff that they did back then. They put everybody on a ventilator because they only died in the hospital, right? That's what happened. They only died in the hospital. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen. So back to what I'm saying. These poor young people, they give up. Fortunately, my children are not the type to give up because they know everything's a fraud. And they understand that the system from top to bottom is corrupt to the core and that it is run by satanic pedophiles. And those are facts. And so everything is designed to treat us like human cattle and disrespect us and humiliate us and make us sick and angry and unhealthy and perverted, so the demonic realm who they serve can feed off of all that energy and emotion. They harvest that. Haven't you ever thought about the fact that the way society is arranged and laid out, that we are being farmed to an extent, right? And so are our emotions. They're being harvested. Don't you think that's why they put a box with a black scrying mirror inside it in every living room in the country, and then they controlled the channels? And they were all free, every one of them. All the channels were free. That's right. They gave you free broadcasting, right? A broadcast, they cast the spell far and wide, folks. That's why they call it broadcasting. That's it. That is the reason. We've arrived at a destination here, unknown. The gloves are off, and so is the mask. How many people do we have here? So there's about 800 of you here now. Okay, good. Excuse me. You know, yelling in this traffic is a bit much. Glad you're here. I'm glad you're listening. By the way, get the likes up on this. Get the word out. We do need people to understand what is happening. We do need people to realize that what is going on is not an accident, that what is being done to us is intentional and is sadistic to the core, and is obvious as a $3 bill at the cashier, okay? It's ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. You need to understand that everything you're being taught and told is a lie, and there's an agenda behind the lie, folks. There are agendas behind all of the lies. Do you really think it is necessary to learn about all this Tavistock British literature of, these incestuous young people committing suicide? I mean, really? That's Shakespeare, folks. That's all that British lit crap. And these kids got to these children got to dissect it and write papers on it. And you want to know something? Nobody reads those papers. The teachers don't even read them, okay? Now they're going to use AI to grade stuff, all right? And by the way, the AI is just going to do all the writing. And right now, the children are using AI to do all the writing. So the children are being taught not to read or write anymore and to act like they know everything. It's a tough time to be young. And the biggest problem with the young people is the parents, okay? Honestly, the adults are the real problem, and these children are victims, okay? It's really sad. It's too bad it's so dark in here, but it is dark outside. It's really sad that, a lot of people still think that these degrees mean anything when, in fact, they're actually harmful to your children, okay? These are the greatest lies that have ever been told. That's why all of the, the other thing, by the way, I know I jump around, but the other thing, my son, he was coming back from the gym and he drove by this place. It's a massive building. And he said, "Dad, did you see that gigantic hospital?" And off the freeway, off the 91. I said, "Oh yeah, I remember they were building that thing." He said, "Why is it so big and what's it for?" And I said, it's really there for nefarious purposes. And he said, "Dad, it looks like a giant factory." And I said, "Well, it is. It's a meat processing plant. And the people that work in there are butchers, and they wear white coats with initials on them. And they make a bloody mess of people's health." Yes, that's correct, folks. That's correct. Even he understands. I said, "Yeah, that's where they murdered my friend. He went in there and they murdered the guy," okay? There's a lot of people that go in and don't come out, folks. I don't know what else to say right now except that, there's a lot of stuff going on. And by the way, I guess I might as well say this. If they're coming out with a movie telling us there's going to be a civil war in this country, look it up. Big movies coming out about the Civil War where the military turns and starts shooting Americans. Our own military is going to turn on us, according to this movie, and, maybe that's why, they want Trump to get in there so we can have this, this uprising where, everybody gets fanatical and gets all, highly charged behind this guy, just like he set that trap for January 6th, where that circus clown told everybody to show up when I was on the air saying, don't go, it's a trap. And sure enough, it was a trap. Or they could put the wax dummy in again and make everybody pissed off and riot so they can roll the troops, right? I don't know. But either way, they got both sides controlled because both of these clowns are controlled, okay? You cannot get into the White House unless you're working for the deniers of Jesus Christ who print the money. That's all there is to it. You can't. You can't even get into Congress. You can't even get on the city council, for crying out loud. Believe me, I tried. This is a joke, folks. The way everything is run is they got it locked down from top to bottom. This is about all we got left, and they're going to be taking this away pretty soon, folks. So you better realize that everything is a lie, okay? Everything. When I say everything, I'm talking about the shape of the earth, what makes you sick, where electricity comes from, what water really is, what foods you should eat, about how the sun is really something that you need to investigate, how everything is not what you've been told, folks. Okay? Once you come to that realization, all right, once you realize that everything you've been told and taught is a lie, then you are ready. Okay? Now, if you're invested in something and you're hanging on to it because of social ramifications or economic ramifications or personal ramifications, if you're scared to lose your friends because of your beliefs or your opinions, or if you're scared to be publicly shamed or have your family humiliated because of the information you possess and promulgate, then the cowardice that is within you will result in your damnation, okay? Those are facts. Because the first ones in line for the lake of fire are the cowards. So do me a favor. Don't get thrown into the lake of fire before everybody else. For crying out loud, at least have a little bit of time to think things over, right? You've got to realize, folks, we don't have a lot of time. I'm not kidding. They're going to pull some heavy-duty stuff. They're slowly taking away everything that we need to survive, right? Like fire, like water, like plastic, like freedom to travel, like sovereignty over your bloodstream. And they're slowly signing on to these international treaties that put things like the World Health Organization in charge of local health regulations and jurisdictions. In the meantime, the media is just going full blast with glamorizing shooting and killing and gun violence. The videos are all shooting and killing and gun violence. The video games all shooting and killing and gun violence. The cartoons have always been shooting and killing and gun violence. Even the Rockford Files in the 70s, shootings and gun violence, but making you laugh at the Dukes of Hazzard, right? Right? Running from the cops, really funny, right? Didn't work out too well for the guys who run from the cops as they're in a jail cell right now. But my point is, they've been trying to get the American people to go berserk with their guns so they could take them away for a very long time, and it's still not working. My message to you is never give up those rights, because your right to self-defense is something even Jesus ordained, because in Luke's gospel, Jesus, before he sat down to have his last supper on earth, said to his disciples, he said, "Hey guys, before I used to send you out without a purse, but listen to me. He who has no sword, let him sell his cloak and buy one." Jesus Christ is for self-defense. And by the way, a sword back then was an offensive and defensive military-style weapon at the time. Bet you never heard that in a sermon, have you? It's always the same rinse and repeat, daycare messages that are the equivalent of a fifth grade IQ, right? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, please, I've been making these videos for how long? And it's just we're in such a mess right now. To all of you who think everything's going just great and everything's smooth and the hedge fund is doing well for your mutual fund and your retirement looks like it's got a few more digits in it than it did 10 years ago, Can I remind you that that's what they said when they sang "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina," when they blew the banks out and they shut the banks down and no one had anything and they were out in the streets beating their pots and pans because they had their guns taken away and they were cooking rocks and feeding the soup to the children as they were passing out in class. Do you have any idea what's going on in Central America and El Salvador where they're doing mass arrests and putting everybody in these mega prisons? Do you know what they're doing with these people that are never coming out of these prisons? Did it ever occur to you that perhaps this is a farming operation in there? And there's no accountability. These people are being systematically tortured with no sunlight, and they're being fed the same food every day. They're keeping the lights on 24 hours a day, making them sleep on a hard surface, and they're getting no trial. They're just getting rounded up like cattle and sent to a slaughterhouse without the guillotine yet. We don't know what they're doing inside those places. But I can tell you something right now, folks. They're importing all kinds of criminals into this country, and they're letting the crime go through the roof so they can come back and bring the troops in like they're doing in New York. They got the National Guard in the subways. They got the military patrolling the streets. That's eventually what's going to be normalized. And then before you know it, the military is going to be telling you what to do. And before you know it, the military is going to be pulling people off the streets. And before you know it, when they get the order, they're going to be taking people off the streets and putting them in these facilities because you got the cooties and they say you got a positive result for your cootie test, right? I'm just telling you, ladies and gentlemen, this is the calm before the storm. They got plans. They're not done playing games. And by the way, these guys don't play games. They play for keeps. These people are psychotic murderers that run things. You don't believe that they're psychotic murderers? Can I ask you a question? Why don't you go on an internet site, let's just say, for example, like Tubi, I think is the name of, somebody told me about this, and look at the movies, and they'll show pictures of these previews. It's all satanic, psychotic filth. Now, let me ask you a question. What kind of an industry produces nothing but satanic, psychotic filth? With all of the facilities they have at their disposal and all of the actors and actresses and screenwriters and key grips and sound editors and everything else and cameramen and all this editing software and all this money and technology, and all they put out is like demonic, evil, psychotic, sicko crap everywhere, every day. That's all they put out is trash. Psychotic, sick trash. Everything is evil. Because that's an emanation of their heart, folks. And that is what they're trying to manifest into a reality, because what's happening is they're projecting what they're feeling, what they want for us. Jesus came to show us the way to put an end to a ridiculous system that is no longer in operation. And he has shown us the way. He is the way. He is the truth. He is the life. No one comes to the Father but through him. He said it himself, I didn't. And if you will receive his Spirit and his forgiveness, you will be given wisdom and power. And you will be witnesses for him to the ends of the earth, folks. And after your life ends here, you will enter eternity and you will spend it in paradise. Believe me, them are the truest words you'll ever hear, folks. Okay? And I don't care what your lot in life is here. I don't care if you feel like you got the short end of the stick. You're not here for more than 100 years if you're lucky. In some cases, you're unlucky, right? This place is not all there is. It's a lot better than this. Jesus said he came to prepare a place for us, and where he goes, we will go too. And he will receive us. Look, folks, I want you to open your eyes. I mean, come on. The water doesn't stay on a spinning ball. The earth's as flat as a pancake. And, these things that they say are flying out of your mouth, they can't find them. They got to stick a tube up into your neck, up into your nose to find them, right? Come on. Start opening your eyes and start reading the ingredients on the labels in the store and look at what they're doing to us. Another thing, look, 50 years ago, I think it was in 1972, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios put out a movie called Soylent Green, and it takes place, I believe, in 2023. And it opens up, I believe, in New York City with everybody wearing masks and sleeping outside in their cars. And everybody's in like these zombie lines waiting for their wafers made out of supposedly algae. That was their food that they were supposed to be living on, when in fact they're being made up of people that were, committing Dr. Kevorkian medically induced suicide and being recycled in these lab-grown meat vats, and they were making the wafers out of them and feeding them to the people. But I heard that they're talking about how the pond plants are going to feed us. That's right, folks. They're looking at using algae and plants that grow, aquatic plants, to feed us. Here we go. They're telling us Soylent Green is here. Okay? But don't lose hope. You need to be prepared and be strong and be aware and be ready, because we don't know when duty calls, folks. All right, I'm going to cut this. We're at 40 minutes. That's a long time. I'm glad you folks tuned in. I want you all to be aware of the fact that there is a way out of here, and that is through Jesus Christ. It is through a very close and tight and deep relationship with him and his wisdom and his forgiveness. You make a mess, you fall down, he'll pick you up. He will forgive you. Nobody on the face of this earth is beyond his mercy and his forgiveness. Don't you ever forget that. I don't care what you've done. Knock it off and ask him to help you stop and turn away from it and walk in the light and walk in his path and walk in his direction. And he will guide your path and he will guide your steps. And if you put your faith and trust in him, it will be a lot easier going through life, because the variables, although we control them, we ultimately don't. We leave them up to him. If we live according to his will, then his will be manifest in us, and we can rest assured in that. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, this is your host, Joe Imbriano. Thank you for tuning in. I want to sign off here. Have a good night. Catch you on the flip side. Take care. Bye-bye.